Long Wars, long, long. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Name is Malik Wali Bay. This is part 5. Part 5. Hello, family. This is part 5 of my installment of Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars. We might finish it with this one, or we might need a 6th one. I only got 4 pages remaining. So we're going to try to put as much as we can in here. So we're just going to jump right back into it. We left off where we was at the victory. The primary purpose is consent, engineering consent. The United States corporation is trying to engineer consent. Basically, it's really not the United States. It's more like Tavistock Institute of Public Relations or other small private groups that the United States is going along with, is trying to engineer consent, mainly the church. And a tactic to engineer consent from the people is diversion. Keeping the people undisciplined, ignorant of the basic systems, confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance. So it's very important for our brothers and sisters to understand this truth, understand what's going on, why everything is going on the way it's going on. Okay? Understand it's really not personal, it's business. Okay? And this is the way that some of our European brothers and sisters have decided to conduct business. They don't have to do it this way, no, but they've chosen to conduct it this way. Islam. Okay, family. Peace and love. Peace and love. Always, always, always. Alright, here we go. So, consent is the primary victory. And it says a silent weapons system operates upon data obtained from a docile public by legal but not always lawful force. Much information is made available to silent weapons systems programmers through the Internal Revenue Service. Okay. This information consists of the enforced delivery of well-organized data contained in federal and state tax forms, collected, assembled, and submitted by involuntary servants or involuntary servitude labor provided by taxpayers and employers. Furthermore, the number of such forms submitted to the IRS is a useful indicator of public consent. As an important factor in strategic decision making. Other data sources are given in the short list of inputs. Okay? Consent coefficient, just by sending it in, you get some sort of consent, like you're consenting to it because you're sending in the taxes, okay? So here we go. Numerical feedback indicating victory status. Psychological basis. When the government is able to collect tax and seize private property without just compensation, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement or in servitude and legal encroachment. A good and easily quantified indicator of harvest time is the number of public citizens who pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. Okay? This is very important to understand that. when the public is doing things that they really don't want to do, but they're doing it because the government is asking them to do it, they're like, well, I guess y'all gonna go along with it, right? It's this consent by soakage. Or I should get my dictionary. Consent by soakage, or consent by acquiescence, not objecting to it. All right. So when our brothers and sisters don't object to it, that's like, you know, telling people to do something, or saying like, everyone who's guilty step to the right. And you know you ain't guilty, but you step to the right anyway, or you just don't, or when they say when you get married, they said, any objection, speak now or forever hold your peace. And you don't object to them getting married, but you know for a fact you don't want them to get married, and you don't approve of it, but you don't object to it, then they're like, okay, it must not be that important if you're not willing to speak on it. Thus, they're like, alright, well, there is no objections then. So it continues, it stands. And it's the same thing with the income tax. If you don't object to it, then they're like, well, you ain't objecting to it, so I guess it stands. I guess you agree. Right? Alright, now we have amplification energy sources. Each class is guaranteeing its own level of income. Controls the class immediately below it. Hence preserves the class structure. This provides stability and security, but also government from the top. If this rise of the lower classes can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance and labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential energy source. Okay? Thus saying, if the people from the lower class don't ever speak up for a long period of time, the elite can achieve an energy dominance, such a comfortability, like we've been dominating for so long and y'all ain't even objected to it. Alright? And labor by consent is no longer, so they don't even need you to consent to do labor. They can force you to do it because they have such a monopoly on it. They're like, I'm going to tell you to do it, you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because they have such a monopoly on it. Now, that's not really true, but that's what they're saying. They could try to force people to do it, okay? Because they didn't object to it the year before, so what does it matter now? Okay? Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of the people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the conclusion transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. It is essential to recognize that at this time, public consent is still an essential key to the release of energy in the process of economic amplification. So right now, or at the time, 1954, 1960s, they're like, it's important to get your consent. But if they can hold on to it, it's been 50 years now, it's 2020 now, 70 years now. If they can hold on to it and no objections are, you see what I'm saying? They're not going to even look for consent anymore. Therefore, consent as an energy release mechanism will now be considered. Then we have the artificial womb. Alright, I just read amplification of energy system. Now we're going to read, let me see if I can see it here. Now we're going to read the artificial womb. Alright, some of it, not all of it, some of it. From the time a person leaves its mother's womb, its every effort is directed towards building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity, i.e. survival, to provide security for freedom, and to provide defense protection for offensive activity. This is equally true for both the general public and the elite, quote unquote. However, there is a definite difference in the way each of these classes go about the solution of their issues, solution of problems, no problem, but they say problem. The political structure of a corporation is dependency. Alright? Now we're not going to get into all of that because I don't really necessarily agree with that. Huh? Yeah, we ain't going to get into all of that. I'm going to just skip that. Okay? Responsibility. I mean, it did say one interesting thing. It said one interesting thing about, therefore, how people assign their dirty work to others, i.e. their children, so they keep the karma off their own hands. I guess you could say, not the karma. That's not true. They keep the actual actions off their own hands, and they try to do it to others. They rave about humane treatment of animals and then sit down and eat a delicious hamburger from a whitewashed slaughterhouse down the street and out of sight. But even more hypocritical, they pay taxes to finance a professional association of hitmen, collectively called politicians, and then complain about a corruption in government. So that's interesting. Hey, they got a point on that one. They got a point on that one. I give you on that one. They got a point. You know, some of us are doing that. Like, hey, treat the animals better, but then you eating a hamburger. Like, what? Or you say, this corrupt government, but why you paying your taxes then? Why are you supporting it? Well, they gonna take my house. They gonna take my car. They gonna take my... Right? But if you know the system, that's not necessarily true. You can get around that. But you got to know how to work the system. You got to know how the system operates. And if you don't know how the system operates, you ain't going to be able to get around that anyway. And that's what our job is. Our job is to show you how the system functions. Alright, with the state and being a ward of the state and being a minority. And then creating a trust to put your estate in. Okay? And some people do UCC1 financial statements. Some people do other things, okay? That can help them to preserve and maintain their houses and cars and everything else without paying taxes. Moving on though, we'll come back to that later. We'll come back to that in a whole nother video. Okay? Responsibility. Now we're in responsibility and we're going to talk about the draft. The military draft. You see that? It says responsibility up top. Then it says the draft and military service. Okay? Again, most people want to be free to do these things, but they are afraid to fail or they don't want to fail. The thought of failure is manifested in irresponsibility, and especially in delegating those personal responsibilities to others where success is uncertain or carries possible or created liabilities, law, which the person is not prepared to accept. They want authority, aka author, the root word, but they will not accept responsibility or liability. Alright? So they hire politicians to face the reality for them, aka quote unquote. That's how they say it. It's not really true, but I can understand what they're trying to say. You understand what I'm saying? They want authority, but they don't want to accept responsibility or liability. Okay? How about people get 501c3s? Okay? a write-off. So just in case something happened, they can get compensated just in case something happened. Okay. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs. The lowest, here we go, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys, and the CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs, licensed saboteurs, and the judges who shout orders and run the closed union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are industrialists. The presidential, quote-unquote, level of commander-in-chief is shared by the international bankers. The people know that they have created this farce, right? A Federal Reserve Bank, and financed it with their own taxes, consent, i.e., they would rather knuckle under than be a hypocrite. Interesting statement there. Interesting statement. I gotta take breaths because sometimes I go real fast, y'all. Alright? I want to make sure I take my time and read through it. Okay? Okay. The draft as military service. Few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable or more effective than that of the socio-military institution known as the draft. My dad was a part of it, and my granddad were both a part of the draft. Truth be told. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institution is to instill by intimidation. I.e., they're trying to intimidate you. They're trying to intimidate the people so they can regulate them, okay? In the young males of the society, the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent, and it is not. He is soon conditioned that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet, quote unquote, a gun, can do in an instant. Alright? Thus, a man trained in a religious environment, a church, you see that? A Catholic school, you see that? For 18 years of his life, can by this instrument of government be broken down, be purged of his fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere months, 3 months. Once that conviction is installed, all else becomes easy to install. Okay? And that's why churches are the how can you say, the compromising tool. That's why so many churches 501c3 tax write-off. So many churches are on every corner. You go 4 blocks this way, 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 you're going to see a church. And why is it very important? Easy. The church's job is to do something. The church's job is to instill and to separate one from his natural self. Use these allegorical stories of Jesus, God, Satan, evil, heaven, hell, Judas, archangels, crucifixion. Use these concepts, okay, to basically soften up the male or woman. Alright, make them softer on the inside. Separate them from their godly self. Okay? Having them thinking that they're minor in this vast universe and that they're one speck in the universe when that's not correct. have them view themselves as being small and insignificant. Okay? And to say this dude, Jesus came down and died for your sins and all this blah blah, and y'all already in sin, y'all trying to get out of it. Like, that ain't true. Okay? The reason why they try to instill that for 18 years, right? Then by the time you get to the military, you're already 18 years, already softened. Like, let's go by faith. Let's go by belief. Let's go by hope. Well, hope the Lord ain't gonna help me. Lord ain't gonna help you. The Lord don't exist. God don't exist. Jesus don't exist. These are fictional concepts. Okay? And they instill that in the person, so by the time they break them down in the military, yell at them and intimidate them and use the gun to really try to be like, oh, this gun can do more, what Jesus gonna do with this gun, blah 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 blah, right? Then people get conditioned by the gun, right, and have the gun give it power. They give the gun power by their own belief, their state of mind. Alright? Thus, they can tell them to do whatever they want, because if they don't do it, they're going to use this gun on them. Right? And they are compromised by saying, like, oh, well, I'd rather knuckle under. Like they said, they'd rather knuckle under than be a hypocrite. And the truth is, we are the creator. We are the gods. We are the spirits. We are the ones who the animals and the plants revolve around us. We don't revolve around it. We work together, but we create this plane. You know what I'm saying? We are God. God and Jesus is a concept to help us explain ourselves. That's the real truth. Okay? They don't want to tell people that, because you can't intimidate someone when they know that they're God themselves manifested in the flesh. So they tell them the exact opposite. They say, no, God is somewhere else. He's up in the heavens somewhere that don't exist. Right? And so you're separate from them on purpose. So, not to get upset if you disrespect the preachers, because my grandfather was a preacher, and I got uncles and cousins that's preachers right now. But they are not doing any good. They're not helping the people master themselves. They're only coddling them and softening them, making them docile. Okay? And it's very important to understand that and understand that. Alright? And those with the truth understand it. Allah. Peace and love. Continue on. Alright? Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who purportedly love him, can be induced to send him off to war and to get hurt. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in further detail, nevertheless, a course interview will be possible and can serve to reveal those factors that must be included in some numerical form in the computer analysis of social and war systems. We begin with a tentative definition of the draft. The draft is selective service, etc. Selective service, meaning they pick who they want to go, is an institution of compulsory, collective, they call it sacrifice, but there's no such thing as that, compulsory, collective, involuntary servitude, devised by the middle-aged and elderly for the purpose of pressing the young into doing the public dirty work. It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders. I'm going to say it again. It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of the elders by the youth less likely. General stabilizer. It is marketed and sold to the public under the label of patriotic or national service. Okay? So they try to distort what they're really there for. You're here to get served up, to be beat up, basically, and taken advantage of and used. But they promote it as patriotic and national when it has nothing to do with that. It's 100% involuntary servitude. And many of those brothers don't make it back. It's designed that way. It's not by accident. It's designed that way. Islam. Peace and love. Some jobs are harder to value because they are unique to the demands of social subversion. For an extreme example, the value of a mother's instruction to her daughter, causing that daughter to put certain behavioral demands upon a future husband 10 or 15 years in advance. Thus, by suppressing his resistance to a perversion of a government, making it easier for a banking cartel to buy the state of New York in, let's say 20 years. Okay? They are treating human beings, especially when it comes to the draft, as machines, levers that may be grasped and turned, and there is little real difference between automating a society and automating a shoe factory. These values are given in true measure rather than US dollars. Since the latter is unstable, being presently inflated, that's the dollar, beyond the production of national goods and services, so as to give the economy a false kinetic energy, paper inductance. Okay? For example, you could say, all right, the silver value is stable. It being possible to buy the same amount in a gram of silver today as it could be bought in 1920. That's not the same for the US dollar. It has no value. It went down in value because there's so much of it now, and it's not backed by gold nor silver. It's an agreement and nothing other than that. Okay? Now to wrap this up, we got enforcement. I don't know if I get to the whole page of enforcement today. This is enforcement. One more page, family. One more page. Factor 1. As in every social system approach, stability is achieved only by understanding and accounting for human nature, action and reaction patterns. A failure to do so can be, and usually is, not good for the business. As in other human social schemes, one form or another of intimidation or incentive is essential to the success of the draft. I'm going to say that again. As in other human social schemes, one form or another of intimidation or incentive, pay for your college degree, that's an incentive, right, is essential to the success of the draft. Okay? Physical principles of action and reaction must be applied to both internal and external subsystems. To secure the draft, individual brainwashing or programming, more likely, and both the family unit and the peer group must be engaged and brought under control. So it's not just the family, it's your friends, your peer group must be brought under control to go along with the same business. to either force or steer someone in the area. You get the parents to do it, then you get their buddies, their peer group to convince them to do it or her to do it. All right, so that's just what's going on. Okay, and intimidation is essential. So they're really trying to intimidate the brothers and sisters, whether it be through images, whether it be through sounds, whether it be through words, whether it be through numbers, whether it be through colors, whether it be through shapes, whether it be through emotions, whether it be through situations. It doesn't matter. Okay? That was factor one. We had 30 minutes, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about pausing it here. You know what I'm saying? And we're just gonna complete it with the next version. Islam. The next version will be part 6. Islam. We got through part 5, family. We got through part 5. We're very well, alright? We're going to move on and knock out this part 6. And then that'll conclude this section of this business agenda. Islam. Peace and love, family. Peace and love.